Stop doing homesteading the hard way. Right now, you're spending more money, more time, and more energy than you actually need to. And the worst part is that the fixes are embarrassingly simple. I'm talking about hacks that cut your feed bill in half, tricks that turn a single afternoon into a year's worth of free fertilizer. Layout changes so obvious you'll be mad nobody told you sooner. These aren't just cute Pinterest ideas. These are 15 field-tested homestead hacks that experienced farmers wish someone had handed them on day one. Some of these go back centuries. Others I stumbled on by accident after years of doing things the expensive way. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete toolkit of shortcuts that save you hundreds of dollars a year, slash your daily chore time, and make your property work like a system instead of a never-ending to-do list. Let's get into it. Here's what nobody tells you when you start homesteading. You're going to waste your first 3 to 5 years figuring out stuff that your great-grandparents already knew. And every single one of those lessons costs you money. You buy the wrong feed. That's $400 a year gone. You set up your coop in the wrong spot. Now you're hauling water 200 feet every morning in January. You plant your garden without thinking about where the runoff goes, and half your topsoil washes into the driveway by spring. The average small homesteader spends over $2,500 a year on inputs that could be reduced or eliminated entirely with the right setup. Feed alone eats up 60 to 70% of most livestock budgets, and the commercial agriculture industry loves that because every dollar you waste is a dollar they collect. Meanwhile, you're watching videos, reading books, joining Facebook groups, and most of the advice you find is either too vague to actually use or designed to sell you something you don't need. The real problem isn't that you're lazy or bad at this. The problem is that the simplest, most effective homestead hacks have been buried under decades of just buy the product marketing. Your grandparents didn't have a $300 automatic waterer. They didn't need a $50 bag of commercial feed every 2 weeks. They had systems, simple, cheap, brilliant systems that made the land do most of the work. And those systems still work. They work better than almost anything you can buy. But nobody's packaging them up and handing them to you until now. Here's what you need to understand. The hacks I'm about to share aren't new. Most of them are older than your grandfather's grandfather. They come from an era when farming wasn't a hobby, it was survival. 18th century homesteaders didn't have the luxury of getting it wrong. If your layout wasted steps, you burned calories you couldn't afford. If your animals weren't feeding themselves, at least partially, you starved right alongside them. Every decision had to be efficient because there was no feed store down the road and no YouTube video to bail you out. These farmers developed systems that stacked functions on top of each other. One structure served 3 purposes. One plant fed the family, the animals, and the soil. One daily chore loop handled everything in 30 minutes that most modern homesteaders spend 2 hours on. And then industrial agriculture came along and said, forget all that, just buy our feed, buy our fertilizer, buy our pesticide, buy our equipment. And slowly over about 75 years, all of that stacked knowledge disappeared from everyday farming. It didn't disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because it stopped making corporations money. The hacks in this video come from that older tradition. I've tested every single one on my own property. Some I learned from old-timers in my area. Some I pulled from agricultural records going back to the 1800s. And some I figured out the hard way after years of overspending and overwork. They all have one thing in common. They replace money and labor with design and biology. And that's exactly how a homestead is supposed to run. I'm about to walk you through all 15 hacks, and honestly, number 9 alone could save you more time than anything else on this list. Hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss a single one. Hack number 1, put your compost between your coop and your garden. This sounds so basic it's almost insulting, but the placement of your compost pile changes everything about your daily workflow. Most people throw their compost wherever there's space, behind the barn, down by the fence line, somewhere out of the way. And then every single day they're walking extra trips, hauling scraps one direction and finished compost the other. One straight line, coop to compost to garden. This alone can cut 15 to 20 minutes off your daily chores. Over a full year, that's over 100 hours you get back. And your compost breaks down faster because it's actually getting fed consistently instead of being forgotten in a corner. But that's just the beginning. Hack number 2 is where the real money starts showing up. Hack number 2, ferment your chicken feed. This is one of the oldest tricks in the book, and it's almost criminal that more people don't do it. Take your regular dry feed, dump it in a bucket, cover it with water, and let it sit for 3 days. That's it. What happens is the fermentation process breaks down phytic acid, which is the compound that blocks nutrient absorption. Your chickens pull more protein, more minerals, and more energy from the exact same feed. The result? Your birds eat about 30% less by volume because they're actually absorbing what they consume. On a 20-bird flock, that can save you $15 to $20 a month. That's close to $200 a year from 5 minutes of extra work. You'll notice firmer droppings, brighter yolks, and better feather condition within 2 weeks. All you need is a 5-gallon bucket, water, and a loose lid. No starter culture, no fancy equipment, just time and biology doing what they've done for centuries. And if you think that's a good savings hack, wait until you hear number 3. Hack number 3, grow comfrey in every empty corner of your property. If I could only plant one thing on my homestead for the rest of my life, it would be comfrey. This plant is absurdly useful and almost impossible to kill. Comfrey is a dynamic accumulator, which means its deep roots pull minerals up from the subsoil that other plants can't reach. You chop the leaves 3 to 5 times a year and use them as mulch, animal feed, compost activator, or all three. One mature comfrey plant produces up to 5 lbs of biomass per cutting. Plant 20 of them along fence lines and around fruit trees. And you've got a free, self-renewing source of high-protein animal feed and garden fertilizer forever. Chickens, goats, and rabbits all eat it. Your garden beds love it as a mulch layer, and it costs you nothing after the first planting because comfrey spreads from root cuttings you can divide yourself. This one plant replaces commercial fertilizer, store-bought mulch, and a portion of your feed bill for $0 a year. Number 4 is one most people get completely backwards. Hack number 4, rotate your animals through your garden beds in the off-season. Most homesteaders keep their animals in one spot and their garden in another, 2 separate worlds. But the old-timers ran them as one connected system. After your last fall harvest, open your garden beds to your chickens. They'll scratch through the spent plants, eat every pest, larvae, and weed seed hiding in the soil, and deposit a thick layer of high nitrogen manure exactly where you need it. 4 to 6 weeks of chicken access on a 200 square foot bed can replace $40 to $60 worth of commercial amendments, and your pest pressure the following spring drops dramatically because the birds already ate the problem. The key is timing. Pull them off the beds at least 90 days before your next planting to let the manure mellow and avoid burning your transplants. If you have goats, they clean up the tough, woody stalks that chickens ignore. Run goats first, chickens second. In 6 weeks, your beds are cleared, fertilized, and pest-free without you lifting a shovel. The layout and feed system hacks were the ones that hit hardest for you. I went way deeper on those in a free guide. It's the full zone-by-zone property blueprint with the rotation systems and perennial feed crops that make most of these hacks actually work together. Links in the description. Now, hack number 5 is something I wish somebody had told me before I built my first raised bed. Hack number 5, build your beds in north-south rows. This is so simple and so overlooked. The orientation of your garden rows affects how much sunlight each plant receives across the entire growing season. North-south rows give every plant equal sun exposure as the sun tracks east to west across the sky. East-west rows create shading problems where taller plants block light from shorter ones behind them. The difference is measurable. Studies show north-south orientation can increase yields by 10 to 15% compared to east-west rows on the same plot. On a homestead garden producing $100 and $200 worth of food a year, that's an extra $120 to $180 in production just by changing the direction of your beds. It costs you absolutely nothing. No new materials, no extra labor, just a different angle when you set things up. If your beds are already in place, don't panic. You can adjust your planting strategy by putting your tallest crops on the north end so they don't shade everything else. But if you're starting fresh, go north-south and never think about it again. Number 6 is one that changed my morning routine permanently. Hack number 6, use a gravity-fed water system from a single elevated tank. Hauling water is the silent time killer of homesteading. You don't notice how much of your life it eats until you stop doing it. One 275-gallon IBC tote on a 4x4 platform can gravity feed water to your coop, your garden drip lines, and a small livestock trough simultaneously. No pump, no electricity, no daily hauling. You fill the tank once a week with a hose or rainwater collection and let gravity do the rest. The total setup cost is around $80 to $150 depending on whether you find the tote used. That investment pays for itself in the first month just-in-time savings. I went from spending 25 minutes a day on water chores to about 3 minutes checking connections. That's over 130 hours a year I got back from one simple system. Run half-inch polyline with T-splitters to each station. Add a ball valve at every endpoint so you can shut off zones independently. The whole thing installs in an afternoon. And once it's in, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. But the next hack might save you even more than this one. Hack number 7, use the deep litter method in your coop instead of cleaning weekly. If you're scraping out your chicken coop every week, you're working way too hard. The deep litter method is a centuries-old system where you add fresh bedding on top of the old instead of removing it. Over time, the bottom layers start composting right inside the coop. Beneficial microbes build up and actually suppress harmful bacteria and ammonia. Your coop smells better, your birds stay healthier, and you only do a full clean out once or twice a year. Start with 6 inches of pine shavings or straw. Every week or two, toss in a fresh layer on top. Turn it occasionally with a pitchfork if you want to speed things up. By spring, you pull out 8 to 12 inches of perfectly composted garden-ready material. That's $50 to $80 worth of finished compost you'd otherwise have to buy. And you got it by doing less work, not more. The deep litter also generates gentle heat during decomposition, which helps keep your flock warm through winter without a heat lamp. That's a safety upgrade and an energy savings in one move. This one hack replaces weekly cleaning, commercial compost purchases, and winter heating costs all at once. Number 8 is where things start getting really interesting. Hack number 8, plant a perennial food forest instead of expanding your annual garden. Every year, annual gardens demand the same inputs: seeds, amendments, transplants, labor. A food forest is the opposite. You plant it once and it feeds you for decades with almost zero ongoing input. Fruit trees, berry bushes, perennial herbs, and nitrogen-fixing support species all layered together in a system that mimics a natural forest. After 2 to 3 years of establishment, a 500-square-foot food forest can produce 200 to 400 lay-bees of food per year. The key is stacking layers. Tall fruit trees on top, smaller fruit bushes underneath, ground cover herbs and strawberries at the bottom, nitrogen fixers like clover between everything to feed the soil for free. Your annual maintenance drops to basic pruning and harvesting. No tilling, no replanting, no buying starts every spring. A well-designed 10-tree food forest with berry understory can replace $500 to $800 worth of annual grocery spending once mature, and it just keeps producing year after year with less work each season. The next hack is the one that ties all of these systems together. Hack number 9, design your property in zones based on visit frequency. This is the master hack, the one that makes every other hack on this list work twice as well. Zone design means you place things based on how often you need to interact with them. The stuff you touch daily goes closest to your back door. The stuff you check weekly goes further out. The stuff that mostly runs itself goes at the edges. Zone 1 is your kitchen garden, herb bed, and chicken coop. Things you visit every single day. These should be within 50 feet of your house. Zone 2 is your main garden beds, compost station, and small livestock housing visited a few times a week. Zone 3 is your orchard, food forest, and pasture rotation areas visited weekly. Zone 4 and beyond is your woodlot, foraging areas, and any managed wild space. When you lay out your property this way, your daily chore loop shrinks dramatically. One farmer I know redesigned his 2-acre homestead using this system and cut his daily chore time from 2 and 1 hours to 45 minutes. No new purchases, no new equipment, just a smarter arrangement of what's already there. And number 10 is a hack most people have never even considered. Hack number 10, Use livestock guardian animals instead of expensive fencing upgrades. Before you spend $2,000 on predator-proof fencing, consider that a single guardian animal can do the job better and cheaper. A guardian dog, a donkey, or even a llama integrated into your flock or herd creates a living predator deterrent that adapts, patrols, and thinks. A fence just sits there. A guardian animal actively protects. A good livestock guardian dog costs $200 to $500 to acquire and about $30 a month to feed. Compare that to running electric fencing around a full perimeter at $3 to $5 per linear foot. On even a half-acre enclosure, the fencing costs more in the first year than the dog costs in 5. Donkeys are even cheaper to maintain if you already have pasture. They're naturally aggressive toward coyotes and foxes, and they require almost zero training. The hack here is thinking in terms of biological solutions instead of hardware solutions. Living systems adapt, hardware breaks. Number 11 is going to surprise a lot of people. Hack number 11, collect and save your own seeds every season. This is one of the most overlooked money hacks on any homestead. A single packet of heirloom seeds costs $3 to $5, but one mature tomato plant can produce enough seeds for 50 to 100 plants next season. Let your best performing plants go to seed at the end of each season. Dry the seeds, store them in a cool, dark place, and you'll never buy that variety again. Over 3 to 5 years of saving, your entire garden seed budget drops to nearly zero. And here's the hidden benefit. Each generation of saved seeds adapts slightly to your specific soil, climate, and conditions. By year 5, your plants are literally custom bred for your property. Start with the easy ones. Tomatoes, peppers, beans, and lettuce are all simple to save. Avoid hybrids. Stick with heirloom and open-pollinated varieties that breed true. This one habit transforms your garden from an annual expense into a self-sustaining system. Number 12 is a feed hack that blew my mind when I first tried it. Hack number 12, sprout whole grains for fresh livestock feed year-round. Take a pound of whole barley or wheat, soak it overnight, then spread it on a tray and rinse it twice a day. In 5 to 7 days, you have a tray of fresh, sprouted fodder that weighs 4 to 6 times what you started with. You just turned 30 cents worth of grain into nearly 2 LABs of living, enzyme-rich, highly digestible feed. Do this on a rolling system with 7 trays, and you have fresh green feed every day, even in the dead of winter. Chickens go crazy for it, goats love it, rabbits thrive on it, and the nutritional profile is significantly higher than dry grain because sprouting unlocks vitamins and amino acids that are dormant in the dry seed. Your feed cost per pound drops dramatically and your animals get better nutrition. Total setup cost is about $20 for trays and a rack. That's it. The next hack is something almost nobody talks about, but every experienced homesteader does quietly. Hack number 13, run ducks instead of chemicals for slug and pest control. If slugs, snails, or ground-level insects are destroying your garden, ducks are your answer. A small flock of 3 to 4 ducks will patrol your garden beds and devour every slug, snail, beetle, larvae, and grub they find. Unlike chickens, ducks don't scratch up your beds and destroy root systems. They waddle through, eat the pests, fertilize lightly as they go, and leave your plants standing. A pair of khaki Campbells or Indian runners will clear a 500 square foot garden area in days, and they'll keep it clean all season long with zero chemical inputs. You save $30 to $60 a year on organic pest control products. Plus, you get eggs. Duck eggs sell for $6 to $10 a dozen at farmers markets, turning your pest control into a profit center. Biological pest control that pays you back. That's homesteading at its best. Number 14 is a winter hack that pays dividends all year. Hack number 14, insulate your coops with straw bales instead of buying heat lamps. Heat lamps are fire hazards. They cost $8 to $15 a month in electricity, and most cold-hardy breeds don't even need them. Instead, stack straw bales around the outside walls of your coop in late fall. They provide R-value insulation that holds warmth inside and blocks wind without any electrical cost or fire risk. Combined with the deep litter method from hack number 7, the composting bedding generates gentle warmth from below, while the straw bales hold it in. Your coop stays 10 to 15 degrees warmer than outside temperatures naturally. Total cost is $20 to $40 for a few bales. In spring, you break them apart and use them as garden mulch or compost material. So even the insulation becomes a productive input instead of waste. No electricity, no fire risk, no ongoing cost, and your birds come through winter healthier than they would under a heat lamp. The last hack on this list might be the most powerful one of all. Hack number 15. Keep a homestead journal and track everything. This doesn't sound exciting, but it is the single highest return habit any homesteader can build. Write down when you planted, what you harvested, how much your animals produced, what you spent, and what failed every season. After 2 years of tracking, you'll have a custom data set for your exact property. You'll know which varieties outperform, which months cost you the most, where your time actually goes, and which animals are genuinely profitable versus just breaking even. One homesteader I know discovered through her journal that her quail operation was costing her 1.15 per dozen eggs to produce, while her ducks were producing at 40 cents per dozen. Without tracking, she'd never have known which flock to expand and which to scale back. A $3 notebook and 5 minutes a day gives you more decision-making power than any course, book, or YouTube video ever will, including this one. If the layout and feed system hacks were the ones that hit hardest for you, I went way deeper on those in a guide. It's the full zone-by-zone property blueprint with the rotation systems and perennial feed crops that make most of these hacks actually work together. Link in the description. I want to tell you something honest. When I first started homesteading, I was the person doing everything the hard way, and I didn't even realize it. My coop was 300 feet from my back door because I thought chickens should be out of the way. My compost pile was behind the barn where I never saw it, so I never fed it. My garden beds ran east to west because that's how the previous owner had them. And every single morning, I spent 2.5 hours on chores before I even had breakfast. I was exhausted, I was overspending, and I was starting to wonder if this whole homesteading thing was actually worth it. Then an old-timer neighbor came over one afternoon and walked my property with me. He didn't say much, but at one point he stopped and looked at my layout and said, "You're walking in circles. Everything's in the wrong place." That one sentence changed everything. I spent one weekend moving my compost to the path between the coop and the garden. I relocated my chicken run closer to the house. I set up a gravity water tank on a platform near the back porch, and I started fermenting feed instead of pouring dry pellets straight from the bag. Within 30 days, my daily chore time dropped from 2 hours to about 50 minutes. My feed bill dropped by nearly $35 a month, and my garden bed started producing noticeably better because the compost was actually getting used instead of sitting in a forgotten pile, decomposing into nothing. I didn't buy a single new tool. I didn't spend more than $100 total on the changes. I just stopped fighting my property and started designing it like a system. That's what these hacks really are. They're not tricks. They're design principles that let your homestead work with you instead of against you. Here's the big picture. Every hack on this list works on its own, but when you stack them together, something powerful happens. Your homestead stops being a collection of separate projects and starts operating like a single integrated system. Your chickens feed your compost. Your compost feeds your garden scraps feed your chickens. Your ducks handle pest control. Your food forest produces without replanting. Your water flows by gravity. Your feed grows on a windowsill tray. Within 1 to 2 years of applying even half of these hacks, most homesteaders see their annual input costs drop by 40 to 60%. Daily chore time cuts in half and production actually goes up because the biology is doing the heavy lifting instead of your back and your wallet. This is what self-sufficiency actually looks like. Not working harder, working smarter with systems that compound over time. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these 15 hacks are you going to try first on your homestead? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one and I'll reply with tips specific to your setup. If this video gave you even one idea that saves you time or money, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. I drop new homesteading videos every week, and the next one is going to blow your mind. I'm breaking down the most profitable micro livestock you can raise on a 1/4 acre or less. You don't want to miss that. Remember, your grandparents didn't need a catalog full of expensive equipment to run a productive homestead. They had knowledge, design, and systems. Now you do too. Start simple, stack smart, and let your homestead do the work. If these strategies change the way you look at your land and your labor, please subscribe and like this video. We are uncovering the traditional wisdom that modern industry tried to bury. Let's cultivate a more efficient future together. Our next treasure trove of homesteading secrets will be revealed very soon.